Hey, so we were talking about DeepSeek all last week, and while we don't have news about DeepSeek today, I feel like all of the news that we have about today, or that we're going to cover for the last week, is actually just like the reaction to DeepSeek in so many ways. OpenAI dropped some amazing things. Seems like they have a faulty backpack. They're just like walking around dropping stuff every day. I don't know, but we're going to talk a little bit about the more recent announcements that they've made. Anthropic came out of the woods and apparently has been doing things not secretly, but has been working with people to test their stuff, and they've now made that public. There's just so much. So I'm going to toss to Andy, but before I do so, you are watching and listening to the Daily AI Show. My name is Beth Lyons, and I am joined by Andy Halliday and Karl. Yeah, and yeah, it's AI News Wednesday. Let's do it. Andy, what you got?
Okay, well, this is Deep Week. So I'm going to start out with Deep and show you how it all evolves, right? So there was, when AI started many years ago, there was, a generative AI capability, but it didn't involve search. So then there was the addition of search to the AI, and Perplexity was really the OG for this kind of thing, right? It wasn't deep, but they added search and they found relevant citations for the query that you made. And so they did AI plus search. And as they've grown and gotten better, it's gotten more and more expansive in its accumulation of search references and its approach to processing all of that. Then along came Google Deep Research, not so many months ago. Now, deep research was different from deep, search, but it was really not possessed of any reasoning or logical thinking and redirection. So it really was, they called it deep research, but that was just because of how deeply it collected and retrieved that body of evidence, if you will, in order to generate its response. So I'm going to say that Google Deep Research formerly was deep search, and it wasn't really deep research, but now they've had to become deep research in reality. So what we're really talking about here is a set of tools that accomplish an agentic search, discovery, compilation, and synthesis into PhD quality academic publications, in effect. Okay, and that's really what is big news this week. There are all kinds of influencers making posts on the various social media about deep research comparos, right? Like how does OpenAI O3 deep research now compare to Google's deep research and R1's capability to use search and reasoning together? So that's all up in the news, and then just today-ish, maybe yesterday, there's an open source version of this, which is called Open Deep Research, and the founder and a team at Hugging Face, and Hugging Face is an open source AI platform where you can assemble all kinds of components, but they are offering now an open deep research tool. And then, not to be outclassed, Perplexity has added R1 reasoning to their deep research, and so now Perplexity Pro Search is really a comparable deep research tool out there. And for researchers and professionals, you have a wide range of choices now. Perplexity Pro is a combination of real-time data processing, multi-source synthesis, and adaptable AI models you can select from now. O3 Mini as one of the reasoning models that you apply to the deep collection that Perplexity does. So we have a whole new model of this, but the general consensus is that OpenAI's O3 model behind their deep research, it dominates in complex querying and information retrieval. So they've jumped ahead of the pack there. There you go. It's Deep Week. Deep research is deep in the news, and we're deeply impressed by the new capabilities of AI to do really sophisticated research for you. But how often are you really going to do a deep research paper?
Well, it's a good question. And I'm going to promo tomorrow's show because we're actually going to be doing deep research with Google's tool and maybe everybody else's tool who dropped, since I wrote that little show description because there's a bunch of deep research that's happened since. But thanks. Yes, that is definitely one of the big stories. Karl, what do you got?
Well, I just wanna comment on that.
Mm.
I think the deep research aspect, I know most people don't, like, have, they're like, "Oh, I wouldn't do, like, research from PhD science math level." So what I actually did deep research for, and it actually works very well if you look at it from a business like so just to think of prospecting, right? You have people trying to go out, look for companies, look for and this doesn't have to be just businesses, it could be organizations, so, like, municipalities who want to attract businesses to their areas, so we're working with one, like, they do what's called investment attraction, so their economic development officers go and try to do research on find specific companies and essentially try to attract them to move their operations to whatever municipality. And they do very similar research to like sales prospecting, very, very similar. Here's the criteria. This is the type of businesses we want, and so on, and contact information if you can get it. And what I did the comparison between that and Google Deep Research, and it was pretty significant that the added point of reasoning made it everything even better. And so that's one use case from a non STEM aspect. But another use case is you can upload a lot of data into deep research. So, for example, um, now because whatever you're using, like let's say O3 Mini, like just yesterday, there's a lot of different models you put deep research on. So if you do have that capability, which we all have in the next month or so, I would go use GPT 4.0 because it has Canvas and it has the ability to output in Word PDF, and you can add files to it. It's really strange because O3 Mini can't do that, but 4.0 can. So add documents and have it scan it and do the research. So imagine you combining one set of document plus another set, plus doing its deep research online. The combination of the two is quite significant from any market analysis or just in terms of your business, plus the reasoning aspect. So imagine you're trying to analyze, where are we gonna go, like, as a business in the next 3 years? Like, what, market areas or regions or, new products should we have? And then it can do the so I think people are thrown off deep research, but think deep analysis too. So PDFs and so on. Actually upload your reporting and all that stuff. Quite there's a lot of uses for it. So when Sam Altman said it can do the work of 1%, don't think of it as just an academic tool. Think of it as how do companies research all those aspects? And then take take the word research out and put analysis in and start adding analytics, any data, it's ridiculous what it can do on that front. So think about it that way when you're trying out the tool, because I think the all the use cases, all the talk has been about academic research and so on. But what's that site that has all that data? It starts with a J.
'Cause I'm gonna laugh and say
Or
the
or a K, or a
internet.
J or a K. It's
Oh,
Google, so go take some data and go upload a whole bunch of it if you have it to deep research, which I think I was gonna do. The analysis of this is pretty significant, and then having it output back into CSV and all that, it does such a better job than any model. I think that's one aspect. So sorry, really long comment, but I think we're kind of tired of anything deep. So I kind of wanted to get into this fun. So the the researchers from ByteDance unveiled Omni-Human 1. So it's an AI system that can generate some of the most realistic deepfake videos we've ever seen. I like how the rundown has more realistic deepfakes. So the system can create convincing videos of any length and style with adjustable body proportions and aspect ratios. So it handles diverse inputs from cartoons to challenging human poses while maintaining style-specific motion characteristics trained on 19,000 hours of video, and can even modify movements in existing footage. Despite 10 US states enacting laws against AI impersonation detection and regulation still remain challenges. I was thinking, I'm just looking at the site. Yeah, perfect. And then you can see all the generated videos that you can kind of, and they've added, I don't know if they added the voices or they're partnering with 11 Labs or another labs like that, but it's kind of neat what you can see. And even like half body, more half body cases with hands, the diversity, more portrait cases. You can't use this right now. But I don't know when they'll release it. Yeah, it would be interesting what we're gonna get when we're gonna get it.
Let's play a couple of the examples here that they have. So, like the generated video, we'll just play.
Club's in the best place to find a lover, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table, blowing shots, drinking fast, and now we talk slow.
So the only thing there is like I can tell that it's the wrong chords based on what she's playing. That's being super nitpicky. I would imagine we'll see something similar with maybe piano. I don't think they're hitting the right chords.
That's not that nitpicky if that's your video.
If you play the piano, you know, but if you don't, you don't.
Yeah, I don't play piano enough to know the difference there. I definitely know enough on guitar.
Oh, well, come on. If the person's hand, like if what you're hearing is a
The guitar one was like kind of obvious. The piano one wasn't.
Yeah, our hands are just going up and down, basically in the same spot. Anyway, that's being really nitpicky. Let's look at something that's
哦，喂，你们是怎么发现我的？虽然我知道这样是没有负关系，但是为了你们的健康着想。
that you could create something like a 3D rendering of a character and then get it to move. They have one here of Einstein.
What would it be like without emotions? It would be empty. What would our lives be like without emotions? It would be empty of values. So a famous classical poet said, "We hate and we love. Can one tell me why?"
I don't know. If I
right. We can't hear you when the thing is talking. What comments were you making about Einstein?
No. I was just saying that this one's pretty convincing to me, honestly, because of the way his body's half turned, and he's sort of looking back at what appears to be like a lecture room or a classroom or something.
Yeah, and that's
without seeing or knowing a ton of either what Einstein sounds like. I couldn't tell you whether that's a representative of his real voice or not, or seeing many videos on him or whatever. It's hard for me to say, oh, like that's his mannerisms or anything. I'm sure experts could, but if we just look at it, what I was saying that I find interesting with that one is something different with this one. There seems to be some like little like quirks, some like a little dip of the head as he emphasizes certain words. And I don't know that I've seen that. You see a lot of like facial, right? It looks right. And the turn of the head looks right. But if you really watch this again, I will just play a different one. I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit more here, which is why people are making a big deal about it.
Boring is easy. Everybody can be boring, but you're gooder than that. Life is not a game, people. Life isn't a serial eater. Well, it is
All right, so that one looks less real to me. We'll look at one more.
We will become. And I know about this because I had the opportunity to stand on top of the Olympic podium and feel the weight of that gold medal around my neck. And I wouldn't have been there had it not been for the
Yeah, and see that one I think looks more real. Like that, and I don't know. It's
See, what's impressive about this is that all of these are being done from a still photo, a single image. And then yeah, I guess they're either writing a script and selecting a voice for it, or in the music cases, I'm not sure. Like this, does the AI, does OmniHuman say, okay, this person's at a piano, so I'm going to have it sing? Or do you have to give it a lyric? It's not clear how you actually articulate these things. But the import of this is that now, my children can take a picture of me that they found on one of the threads there and make me dance,
right.
right? And send it back to me or something like that. Remember, this is from ByteDance. This is the company that's behind TikTok. So you're going to see a lot of dancing grandpas out there, I think, is
Well,
what's going to
one of
happen.
their videos was Jensen Huang rapping,
Yeah.
right?
By the way, I think ByteDance had previously delivered a tool in TikTok that would allow you to, or somehow they had delivered and announced a tool that wasn't as comprehensive and sort of deep fake excellent as OmniHuman, but they did provide something that could animate a still image previously. But now this is another generation and level of accuracy and reality.
Yeah, they say in here in OmniHuman, we introduce multimodality motion conditioning mixed training strategy. Say that quick, allowing the model to benefit from data scaling up of mixed conditioning. And if I remember right, when I was reading some of the newsletters on this, that they're handling different parts of the video and audio, those are all being handled separately. And then I guess mixed in, as they were saying, with the mixing of conditioning, mixed training strategy. So it is multimodal, but everything is being broken down into its individual parts and then apparently being put back together for something that does appear more human. Anyway, the real story here is, look, I mean, we've been saying this forever. People know this, but people are going to have a better strategy both for their family and obviously for business and protecting businesses about, safe words and things like that. Like that's been around for a long time, but it's going to have to become a bigger deal because if my dad doesn't know like the extent of which AI can do right now, nor should he. It's not something he's particularly focused on outside of maybe what I talk about or whatever. So my name, image, likeness, my voice, and mannerisms that may look a little more like me. Obviously, there's hundreds upon hundreds of hours of video of me moving from this show. So it's not a huge leap to say if somebody really wanted to that they could create a convincing video of me talking about stuff that I've never said before. It wouldn't be hard to duplicate this background and then superimpose me on top of it because the background doesn't really change. And so it'd be pretty quick to say like, oh, there's something that Brian said and it's not real at all. So people are going to have, whether it's the safe word type stuff for families or certain phrases that they feel like would get around the AI side of it that couldn't be reproduced unless the family knows. Or like we're seeing, did Jimmy mention, somebody mentioned that, where did I see this? In AI applications for jobs, how that's becoming, oh, it was one of my old coworkers. He puts it on LinkedIn and he said, I had to embed a word, which I'm hearing more and more often in the job description in order to get around the AI or just lazy people who are sending that job description through AI and not actually reading it. And if people did not bring up that word, right in the middle of a sentence, it said, start your answer with red. If they didn't do that, then he did not even look at the application because his point was like, if you're too lazy to even read the full job description for yourself, you're not the person for me. So I wonder if there's a flavor of that's going to have to come more and more into this.
So that's really interesting because what we're hearing from schools is the opposite, right? So the job description is saying you must include this word in your stuff so that I know you at least thought about it, even if you used AI. At schools, we're hearing if you embed this word, we're saying that you used AI when we said you couldn't, right? Like there is some sort of equal and opposite kind of thing happening there.
Yeah, and a weave on that one is that Anthropic has advised job applicants to Anthropic
Oh, that's right.
not to use AI to generate answers to questions on their applications.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Good
they're
call.
saying, no, we'll know if you did, and don't. You have to answer these questions the way you would personally.
You have to believe too that if Anthropic's putting the call in and saying, don't do it, don't do it. Like if anybody had the tool to figure it out, it's Anthropic. Yeah, I would say if you really want to work in Anthropic and of the variety of the jobs that they're posting out there, take the 2 hours, write your stuff out, do it all. Maybe use AI for some research, but do not look at it as far as what you put in there. Because I definitely believe them when they say they'll be able to tell. That's a good pivot, Andy. I forgot that news story came out.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pivot off that to, to the AI improving breast cancer detection, all about detecting things. AI improves the breast cancer screening and detection rates in real world study. This study involved 460,000 women in Germany. And it compared AI supported double reading with standard double reading in mammography screening. And basically, what that means is that it is standard for them when they're looking at the results of a mammography, to pass it between two human doctors who are looking at it. This was passed, I believe, first to the doctor, then to the AI, and back to the original doctor. So it's not two different doctors, but it is two different looks. And the AI would just point out, like, hey, I see this area, and these are the stats around this kind of representation in this area. But the final call was the doctor made it, and it had incredible, it had incredible results. It improved detection rates, but it also improved detection rates without increasing false positives, right? So it enhanced accuracy and efficiency. It left the human doctor in charge, but it had a really positive result without a corresponding opening the door to a bunch of not positive results.
Yeah, I'll weave off of that one. There's MIT has built a model that analyzes the 3D organization of the genome and how the individual cells' gene expression patterns function. So this can be used to explore mutations in genetic expression, and especially in DNA sequences that cause disease, including cancers, etc. Like you can do genetic tests and see a predisposition to certain cancers, for example. And this one models that, but is analyzing the AI is analyzing how that affects the expression of the gene, like not just there we can detect that and look at it. We've done genome sequencing before. Now the AI model figures out how that actually operates, and now there's promise for advanced disease treatment, not just disease detection.
Well, you were talking about MIT, so I'll pivot to another college and we'll talk about California State University, which there was a big announcement that just came out the last day saying that they are providing more than 460,000 students and over 63,000 staff and faculty with access to ChatGPT EDU. Remember, there's a Gov version, there's an EDU version. People sort of forget that they exist through OpenAI. It's ChatGPT customized for educational institutions. It's the largest implementation of ChatGPT by any single organization or company anywhere in the world. With a system-wide rollout across 23 campuses, CSU will become the first AI-powered university system in the United States and a global leader in AI in education. I don't know about first AI-powered university. I think because we've seen and heard stories. There's a university out in Arizona that's like basically AI first, and they're doing things different. I don't think it's a large system like CSU, but nonetheless, this is interesting. In fact, one of my favorite people on LinkedIn was talking about this, Peter, and he has an amazing podcast called Disrupt Education. I highly recommend you going and checking that out if you're interested in these types of things. It's not specifically about AI. It's about disrupting education. He's a professor himself. He's a teacher, has been. Anyway, he called me out and he's like, Brian, I'd be curious to know what you think about this on LinkedIn, which has brought this story to me yesterday. And my answer to him was like, look, okay, great. We're here seeing the story from CSU, and this is a big one, so I get it. 460 plus 63,000. I mean, we're talking 500,000 plus. Just think about that. 500,000 people getting access to ChatGPT EDU. Obviously, this is a big win for OpenAI and what they're doing with their EDU side of things, just like what they're trying to do with Gov. But his point was like, what does this mean for education? And I was like, well, look, there's a lot of universities who are not going to be able to put their head in the sand. I think we're past the point of restrict the tool, don't let anybody use it. That was the first knee-jerk reaction. I don't hear that as much anywhere, because obviously universities have grown wise to the fact that, as Karl was, I think, talking, I missed part of it at the beginning, about deep research and what we see coming out the door right now, is that any student with access to, well, in maybe a few weeks, having O3 high with deep thinking, and if it comes to the plus, for $20 to $25 a month, can produce, not let's say PhD, but let's just say master's, or definitely college level research papers with very good citations, with very good sources, well written, the whole thing. And they can produce this in probably less than 20 minutes of them working with the model. So now what are universities going to do? It's a bigger question than what we can cover today on a news show. But I think it's like, this is a great indicator of what the pivot's going to be from large university systems like this one in California, where they're going, hey, what we're going to have to do is provide training. And if you get into this, they talk about the training and the rollout for this. It's not just like everybody gets it. They're saying that they're going to do training for staff, and you would have to, because think of these professors who've been teaching the same subject on whatever it is, and maybe there's a creative writing element to it, or there's research papers that need to be written or whatever. You can't just, you can give this to everybody, but how are you going to go train your staff to change their curriculum and what's on their syllabus to now use these AI tools? Because now, if all students can just produce a research paper, it might be the flip that Ethan Mollick has talked about. He talked about it in Co-Intelligence. He's talked about it recently again on LinkedIn, which is more of this is going to have to happen in class. And so we're probably going to see this flip, hopefully at CSU and other places, where they go, okay, you have this AI tool. And by the way, equity, right? That's a huge part of it. All students will get access to this. Well, what does that mean? In learning labs at home? What if not all students have the same access to the internet, right? There's a lot that goes into this, but more so for the professors, because what are you going to do for the professors, and how are you going to help them change long established curriculums and what they do now, based on the fact that they and the students have these tools? And I think Ethan Mollick's right in the sense of how it's going to flip, and there's going to be more work having to be done in classes. And then you go out away from the class, you do research, you use the AI, you come back to the class, and there's more open discussion and work on it. But you're using these AI tools because, well, they exist. So really, really cool story. So just wanted to bring that up.
So Greg was saying AI gets rid of the middleman. Who are the middlemen in higher education? I wondered about TAs, but given what you're saying, if there's more conversation in class, are you now using more small group? Like, you have a big class, but you have small group kind of conversations? Because you can't do more work in a class of 200 students, in like, there's a bunch of people watching, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that's what's happening.
Beth, it might be, and look, we'll pivot off of this, because you know me, I could do a whole podcast on just education and AI, and be very happy doing that. But what I would say to that, Beth, is, and to what Greg was saying is, yeah, like, I went to UGA, I went to the University of Georgia, and I can remember a statistics class with 250 people in a lecture hall, and it was like, you didn't really talk to the professor, you talked to the TA, right? And so I can imagine these breakout groups based on where my holdups might have been in statistics, and based on some things, I might have been pushed into a small breakout group with a TA where my sticking point was, and apparently other people who had maybe a similar sticking point for the lesson plan that was going on. And then we're using AI tools to help me get past that sticking point. But that TA is there to ensure everybody's using maybe that version of that custom GPT that's going to help me get past it. Then you go back to the big lectures, bigger topics, whatever. And then the homework really is go out and use these AI to help you get answers, and then we'll come back and talk about it. And I think that's where I see this flip. So I don't know about the middleman. I mean, I think the colleges are the middleman, if I'm being perfectly honest. What are colleges going to do when beyond YouTube, beyond all this, it's now possible with these AI tools to get very, very high level educations if somebody's willing to sit in front of a computer and do it, you know? So the middlemen are probably colleges, and we'll have to see how they pivot with that for sure. But this is a good first step.
And Gareth agrees with you. There is a little bit of a split in the chat. We would love to hear from people. This is definitely a split.
Whatever Gareth said is, I didn't read it, but if he agrees with me, more power to you, Gareth, and everybody else is wrong. That's the way I see it. That'll get them going.
I want to pop one point in about colleges and whether they're going to be disintermediated. Eventually, what you need some attestation and certification based on assessment that you have accomplished what is necessary for the degree. And the college is the stamp for that. They have a process today that does assessment and accreditation, and they're accredited themselves, because they meet all the requirements. I just wanted to pop in and say, how does that get replaced in the world of AI? Is it an AI that determines whether or not you've accomplished sufficient, development of critical thinking and knowledge around your domain of expertise, and then gives you accreditation? And is that the college of the future? Is an AI that's doing the assessment?
So I think that is a question that is going to be like people are going to go around and around about it for a little while because AI is coming out of tech. And well, AI is coming out of tech, but it's coming out of tech with a bunch of PhDs, right? Like that seems to be the room. But tech in this context generally only needs to see what you can do, right? And so tech like Salesforce jobs don't require a college degree, most of them. They require certification, right? And I think that that's true of other like those kinds of tech kind of jobs. You just have to prove that you can do it, not that you have to prove that you can do it in a certified way, but that is not a college degree, right? That's a pass the certificate test.
Well, I like EMT and firefighting for me were both written and practical, right? So there's many jobs where there's going to be a practical involved with it. I mean, so what? I could pass the test if I couldn't actually in a hyped up, fake situation perform and start an IV as an EMT and obviously do the right drills as far as how you move the nose and spray patterns for fire on that side of it, right? But to your point, Beth, or to maybe what you're saying, Andy, is the accreditation in those situations was me in a really cold room with a computer that had super limited access. And my phone was, back when I did those, they were in a locker 4 rooms away. There was no, and so you're really restricted to whatever's on the screen. And so to your point, Andy, yeah, there's probably AI involved with that and how the test is administered to that person. Hopefully, maybe to help them with some learning. I don't want to say necessarily disabilities, but things that people are dealing with, so that everybody has, again, an equitable chance to pass tests. We've traditionally said some people are good at tests, some people aren't. So hopefully that meets in the middle somewhere with AI. But if it's restricting access in this cold room and that's the only way you can get the accreditation, like it was for me, like I could only pass the EMT exam if I was in that room and they said I passed. So I think you're probably right, Andy. It's probably a bit of AI involved in that.
Andy is often probably right.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I have a weave off of that one, though. So, like we've just talked about what the future testing environment looks like. And you pointed out, Brian, that there are practical things that have to be demonstrated,
Sure.
not just typed out on the screen or spoken, right? So now you're going to have a humanoid robot who's there to assist you and supervise you and assess you in those practical movements and execution. So now I'm pivoting over to robotics and world models. And just as context for that, I want to remind everybody that NVIDIA and the vision that Jensen Huang has for the future of AI is embodied AI. And so they have all these tools, right? They have the Omniverse thing, which is for virtual environments and simulation training. They have Isaac tools for robot training, manipulation, and so on. And they have Project Groot, which is all about humanoid robots. It's a foundation model, an AI foundation model for multimodal memory-equipped AI in humanoid robots. And then they built Jetson Thor, which is their compact compute for mobile robots, right? So all of that leading up to news today. Figure, one of the major players in robotics, has dropped OpenAI as the source of their intelligence for their robots.
Wow, that's amazing.
Their in-house model. And the CEO
Perfect it is.
CEO
Sorry, Andy.
pro- the CEO promised that he will deliver something that no one has ever seen before in a humanoid robot within 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah.
That's a bold claim. Figure's actually pretty cool though when you see what they're building, for sure. Yeah, we haven't talked about them in a little bit. My only quick pivot off of that, Andy, is you talked about NVIDIA. So I do have a pivot that does bring us all the way back to education, but that's because I literally just saw this on my screen. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang says everyone should get an AI tutor right away. This is from the February 2nd. He said, he says he has a personal tutor with him all the time, and he thinks AI educators are the future. With this tech-enabled intelligence, Huang said the workforce will look like human employees empowered by AI rather than robot domination. He said he thinks humans could learn a thing or two from AI. The NVIDIA CEO is plugged into how quickly the tech is innovating and is now partnering with it to intellectually match pace. He had one essential piece of advice for those wanting to keep up with the future and not fall behind. Start using the digital educator sitting in your back pocket, naming Grok and ChatGPT. Quote, if there's one thing I would encourage everybody to do, it's to go get yourself an AI tutor right away. Pretty interesting, And I think he's a guy we should pay attention to. We have been, but this is a guy that's been, no pun intended, but plugged in to this for 30 plus years. And by the way, I mentioned this last week, but if you haven't gone and watched the interview with Cleo Abrams on for Huge If True, go do that. It's worth your hour to go watch that and learn how Jensen Huang thinks about these different parts and pieces and where he sees this. Cleo, I've said this 1,000 times. She's wonderful at how she does it. Clearly, she put the work in to do the interview. It wasn't just like, oh, I get 20 minutes with Jensen Huang. She spent months talking to other people in NVIDIA leading up to it. So I think what you get is a very good distilled down, just excellent interview. Can't say enough good things about it. So go check that out if you're interested in Jensen Huang. That's Cleo Abrams and her I think it's just Cleo Abrams is the name of the YouTube channel. I'll just fact check that in a second here. But Huge If True is the thing. And these are huge conversations, your huge interviews, or it's like an offshoot of it or whatever. But you'll find it. If you put that in YouTube, you'll find that. It's about an hour long. It's pretty cool. All right. What else we got, Beth?
So, I mentioned Anthropic in the opening, and Anthropic, like we've commented, right? As everything is dropping, it seems like, hey, Anthropic, where are you? You haven't dropped stuff. You don't seem to be catching up. What's going on? And Anthropic unveiled, now I'm trying to figure out which tab it is. Anthropic has been working on Anthropic is the company that has constitutional AI, meaning that it is trained within a constitution, not red teamed in the same kind of way or reinforced, right? Like what the other model training involves like, okay, so we make it and then we do a like install the guardrails kind of thing and try to make sure that every time it goes outside of that, there's some adverse thing that happens so that it will or controlling thing that happens so that it will function within the guardrails. Um, Anthropic may do some of that, but they train within a constitutional AI, meaning that has to meet a particular kind of helpfulness, right? They all want to be helpful, but they apparently have been working on an update to that they have been working on an update to that, and there was a $15,000 bug bounty prize, that has been going on for, I think, a couple months now. No, there were 10,000 attempts to hack or to get the adverse result, to get the model to do what, to find the bug, right? That could make it, behave in a way that they don't want. That prize was not awarded, after 10,000 attempts, no one was able to do it, so now they've opened it up to the public. And I think we have 2 weeks, to do it. There's a time limit, but same kind of thing. Like, after having these 186 people do it, now anyone who wants to do it can try. And so it sounds to me like they have something that they just wanna make really sure that they before they release. That was my take from, an inference from all of this, and I think that is the answer to where have they been.
I think
And honestly
that's really interesting because it's an example that's analogous to the US Constitution and the set of laws that are driven by that. And the observation that I'm going to make right now, which is that there are hackers who are able to hack past those rules and regulations, either just by ignoring them or by exploiting different vulnerabilities that are in the Constitution and our legal system and the way it's been structured. And so it's a wonderful model to have Anthropic as a constitutional AI, where we have a constitutional democracy. The constitutionality of it is being eroded as we watch, and challenged in basically advocates for a different model, as sort of a uh, beat them all, first order, authoritarianism, or at least a plutocracy or oligarchy. Wow. A great reminder to us all that Constitution and the will to follow that Constitution has to be programmed in the DNA of the uh, of the corpus of that system, whatever that is, and that's the humans. And here you have humans who have voluntarily given up on all of that, and we're losing the constitutionality of the democracy. Wow. Oh, I had to go there. It's because
Deep breath from Beth.
Well, and then like, hi everybody. I live outside of Washington D.C. Like hello.
You're
Well,
close to it.
so, but also the sort of pivot in my head of like, so has there been a bug bounty for our Constitution going on for like the last 40 years? Probably more than 40, right? Like that's just an interesting new pivot for me. Okay.
I have
Move on.
one more if I can share real quick. Yeah, I don't want to. But this is pretty cool. I'm gonna actually share it on my screen because I want to share this from Hugging Face, and I did mention this at least something similar to this maybe a week or two ago on our news show. So I just wanted to bring this up. Hugging Face puts out this article yesterday, and it says open source deep research freeing our search agents. TLDR, yesterday, OpenAI released Deep Research, a system that browses the web to summarize content and answer questions based on the summary. The system is impressive and blew our minds when we tried it for the first time. Then they go on to talk about whatever. It says, while powerful LLMs are now freely available in open source, see the recent DeepSeek R1 model, OpenAI didn't disclose much about the agentic framework underlying deep research. So we decided to embark on a 24-hour mission to reproduce their results and open source the needed framework along the way. The clock is ticking. let's go. Pretty cool, right? So Hugging Face has been, pretty well involved with this. I always think back to like before I really got into AI, I'd never heard the term Hugging Face before. It's like, and now it's like it's such an integral part of what goes on as far as open source, and being a big part of that. People release on Hugging Face, and you're able to go there to get downloadable files and things like that if you were so inclined to like run LLMs, light LLMs on your computer or something like that. You're most likely going to be working through maybe a Hugging Face page to do that. So anyway, I just think it's really, really interesting. And I love this idea of like, I just love the way that ends. Like the clock is ticking. Let's go. So that was yesterday. I haven't seen any updates, but we will have to see what they come up with. And it seems like it got a ton of upvotes. So people are really excited about it.
You talked about that at the beginning, right? All right, you already talked about this. There was one thing that I wanted to build on that though. Well, I don't think we talked about the last humanities test,
No.
right? We talked about the I think I don't know. I just briefly heard they
So let's just clarify. It's humanity's last test.
humanity. Yep.
It's not that we reduce the population to the last humanity and then they take a test.
There's actually a video. There's a movie on that where like he's like humanity was actually done, and then anyway, yeah. So there was a test, and I think they paid a lot of like top researchers, PhDs, and people to actually come up with the test to ensure that how do you test something, and it's like yeah, literally for humans, and I think over the past week, I think the last 10 days it went from 3% or 8% to now 26% with deep research. So you could say what happens in 30 days, 60 days, we'll need a new benchmark or a new a second test on that too.
Right? Well, that's I always get it wrong. Andy, what is Life 3.0? Prometheus?
Yes.
Right? That's the point of it. And when we're starting to hear that, right? We assume that the frontier model companies have models in-house that are creating or assisting in the training of the new models. They're not releasing the proprietary in-house ones, but we are seeing the benefit in what they do release. And and at some point that gets faster and spins up and does it for them like sisters doing it for themselves, right? Like AI doing it for itself. Anyway, and let that move your Wednesday. Do we have any like last things? I want to oh, here we go.
Just really question about Prometheus. Are you talking about the movie Aliens Prometheus? Or are you just talking about
No.
okay.
No, the AI in Life 3.0, that book, the AI in their description of how superintelligence emerges and takes over the planet in beneficial ways in that particular telling, that AI is called Prometheus in that book.
And the version goes up within the day, right? So Prometheus is
When the guardrails are taken off it and it's allowed to improve itself, it goes through 10 or 11 versions of itself in a day and it achieves an extraordinary and exponential improvement in its intelligence, far surpassing human capabilities and so on.
right. So that and the reason that I brought that up is that humanity's no. Yes, humanity's last test. Yes, humanity's last test basically sounds like the last test that like humans can write the question for and verify that those are the right answers to the questions.
And it's a very difficult test for AIs to pass. The earlier accomplishments were in the 2 to 10% range, and I think probably the models that Beth is describing behind the scenes that are the most advanced in the progression towards artificial general intelligence are probably capable of getting somewhere around 25 or 30% on the humanities last exam.
right. And the heard a little bit about how they created that. Like they went out and asked like real expert people to write to write the questions, and I think they got paid like they got it was not like write a question, submit it, thanks for doing it for us. It was like a paid feature. You got paid if it was accepted into the pool of questions. So they like it's the top question writers of all
All time.
like
Yeah.
well, of all things that you would want your AI to know, of all knowledge, maybe, of all reasoning kinds of things. So it's when it's smarter than when it can pass that and it's smarter than humans, it's not smarter than one human. It's like smarter than the top representation of all of the humans of all of the things, I would say.
Yeah. So in answer to your question, can humans pass the humanity's last test? No one human can.
Right. Right.
Right.
I want to just call out Gareth had said this in our comments because they're talking in the side comments about AI and some of the things we were talking about in Prometheus and stuff. And he said it's like Neo downloading Kung Fu. So that has actually come up in a conversation with me, Gareth, in the last probably week. I was talking to a coworker and I was saying to my coworker, we're working on he brought me in on a joint client, right? And they said, this is what we want to do. And there's some custom GPTs involved. And I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. And he said, well, what do you need from me? And we talked about what I needed from him. And he said, well, I got these PDFs and whatever. And I like, okay, I'll put it in the format you're asking me. And so I like kind of paused and I said, I wrote him back on Slack and I said, hey, don't just to be clear, don't do that. Go have ChatGPT do that for you. This is how. This is what my reasoning would be. And I wrote him a quick prompt and sent it back to him. But this is a coworker that doesn't use AI a ton. Like 2 hours goes by and his answer, he comes back to me and he goes, I feel like Neo in the Matrix after I've used this. I was not aware that I could do this. And he had gone through like 10 or 15 different PDFs in record time now, whatever. And my answer back to him was, I know Kung Fu. And he's like, exactly. So it's funny when you have like, you don't get them all the time, but when you get a chance to work with a coworker or a family member and you're like, hey, just to be clear, I'm not saying go do that. That's ridiculous. Why would you put all that human hours into that? Just go tell the GPT to go handle this for you and then bring me that information back. That will be suitable. And it just kind of blew his mind. So anyway, I just wanted to call that out because that's come up. I feel like Neil all the time. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I feel like you and Gareth are naming an experience that people who have that movie in common are all like, wow.
Watch that movie. All three or three of them, however many there were, but definitely the original Matrix has probably been more than a decade since I saw it. But I bet you it'd be a lot of fun to watch that now in the era of
Right.
AI. Maybe that's something you and Jimmy can talk about on the
I think you should have a movie night. Like, let's
Well, listen, I think Gareth or one of them is saying in the comments we should have like Joe Rogan-esque 4-hour lives. Listen, throw it in the I'm not saying we're not gonna ever do that, but throw it in the chat if you think we should do that. And then Jen had also talked about AI karaoke. I love AI karaoke. Jen, I have $1 million idea on AI karaoke. So if anybody ever wants to do a live session and talk about how to build out live AI karaoke, which is hard to say. You let me know because I have some thoughts on that I think any of us could deploy locally and have some fun in our local community. So
Okay. You just gave me a random thought about there's a thing in improv called improv karaoke. And
Neat.
it's occurring to me that that AI would be great at it, and the short description of it is the presenter has not seen the slides before, but you give a topic.
Oh
And so like this shoe represents the first step that we're right, like that kind of thing. I think
yeah.
AI would like be really funny.
That would be
doing
super
it.
hilarious to watch. Yeah, yeah. The whole idea of the AI karaoke is that there's a not 1,000 songs, but there's 30 songs that we all know. Living on a Prayer, Bon Jovi, right? These songs that we're gonna know that people would do at karaoke, but based on audience involvement, those lyrics get changed quickly with an AI that's able to do that quickly. And then sing Beth. The singer comes up and they're not getting rated on whether they can sing or not. Who cares with karaoke? But getting rated on whether they can, convince us that these are the real lyrics as you're seeing them for the first time. You're living on a prayer, but it's not living on a prayer. But it's like they're seeing it come scrolling on the karaoke. I would find that hilarious because like you're voting on could they pull it off when they had no idea what the song was going to be about based on audience. So it's sort of a Mad Libs type thing or whatever. Yeah. So I totally see that. Think about going to your local like play, craft brew place that you like or whatever, and this is what's going on. Totally fine. Totally fine.
I feel like rap has to be a part of that because rappers do that, right? Like rappers train for like challenge for you. Now you just got to come up with all the stuff. Singers a little less so, but yes, apparently we're doing
$1 million ideas.
many things.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks everybody for joining us. It has been delightful. We were talking about the news today. We talked about OpenAI's massive stuff. Tomorrow we're talking about deep research. We were talking about Google Deep Research, which we will talk about. And we were looking at comparing that with Perplexity. Since then, we've had 2 other deep research things dropped. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about Storm, which is a specialized deep research sort of off in the corner, but getting great reviews, and Co-Storm, which is more of a collaborative way of engaging with that content. Which is from Stanford. And then Friday, we're going to talk about what the heck has happened in AI in the last 2 weeks. So come back tomorrow and Friday, and hope you all have a great day. All right. Thank you.